All right, our last speaker of the evening, Dr. Matt Townsend. He's known as one of America's top presenters in the field of human relations and development. He completed his bachelor's and master's degree in the field of communication with an emphasis in conflict resolution. Wouldn't that come in handy? His second master's degree and PhD is in the field of human and organizational systems. Matt is featured daily on the Matt Townsend Show. You may have heard him. Sirius XM Channel 143, BYU Radio, and weekly on KSL Television Studio 5 with Brooke Walker. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Matt Townsend.
Ow! Thank you, Amy. How many of you love Amy's boot? She's sporting a boot. Did you guys know the governor's here? I know. The First Lady brought him. Where are they? There they are. Good to see you. By the way, if you want some dirt, they were on my show. And we talked about everything. We talked about raising their difficult children. Some of them are right here and right back there. We talked about some amazing stuff, and I'm honored. I'm so honored to be here. I really am. Everyone's like thinking, why would Matt be talking about anxiety? And it all started when Mrs. Herbert started talking about putting worms in alcohol. And it reminded me of when I learned to swim in the Tooele pool. Tooele was brought up earlier, and I learned to swim. Actually, it was just controlled drowning, is what we called it in my therapy sessions. And what we found out was that the teacher would just drop us in the pool. And I felt like the worm in the water. So it's not funny. And I wish you hadn't brought it up. I'm just kidding. Hey, by the way, there may be fireworks, but you all know, you know what, when you hear a firework, you know what that means? An angel just got its wings clipped. It's like a bell, but it's the opposite. It's just, bam, clip those wings. So here's the deal. We've got 2 hours to wrap this up. And by the way, have they done a great job or what? Give them a hand. Woo! And Amy, did you see Amy coming out with the big boot? I mean, you know how hard it is to walk out? Well, I do. Let me talk about it. Here's the deal. I've got very delicate ankles. Okay? Many in my family say I got Nana's ankles. And so a lot of times, this is actually where I knew that having a little bit of anxiety in my life was an advantage. Because some people think anxiety is a negative thing, but I'm going to show you today it's absolutely not. But what I realized was this. My wife and I were on a walk, and we do this a lot because we're super fit. Okay, that's rude. I don't know who you invite here, Mrs. Herbert, but they obviously aren't learning much. Not taking the tips home, apparently. So here's the dilemma. My wife and I are on a walk. This has happened 3 or 4 times. In fact, by the way, right in the middle of a burning house, right in front of a burning house, this happened. True story. And we're walking, and we just, we walk, but not a fast pace, just a good pace, kind of, like a good cardio-ish, maybe almost cardio walk. And as I'm walking, I twist my ankle. My delicate, Nana-like ankle. And here's the deal. Nobody believes this. But when I say that I fell 100 feet, probably 150 feet, and lived to talk about it, they don't believe it. But this is the story. I fell 150 feet. Now, when you hear that, you think, what, off of a building? No, this is how it happened. Twisted my ankle, and once I twisted, all I did was I stepped on the side of the sidewalk, and then it twisted. And when it started twisting, I started falling. But my head said, no, we're not doing that. You know how embarrassing that would be? And because I'm so sensitive to my environment, as I would fall, my body said, speed up. Let's just outrun this. Let's just outrun it. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen? Like, you fall and just like, oh, spread eagle? I'm not doing that. There's a real house on fire, burning, the studliest men you've ever seen, saving lives. And Matt Townsend twists his ankle. Why are you laughing? So I twist it, and I start falling, and I'm going down, and everything in me and nature, gravity, is saying, we're taking you out right here. And my brain says, not going to do it. Speed up, speed up. So I start running. But as I'm running, I'm also falling. So with every step I took, I'd lose about an inch in altitude. And I started falling and falling. And then my body's like, faster, 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 Matt, faster. You can outrun this. And I was running on my itty-bitty, tippy toes as I was almost parallel to the ground. Then you reach the most magical moment of all falls. It's the moment you're like, it's not working. You're going to take it right now. But Matt, I want, when you hit, do not make that sissy grunt noise. Don't make it. Just take it like a man. It was humiliating. It was humiliating. And then all my sensitivities kicked in like, are people watching? Don't let the fire department come over. It's the last thing I need. I'll just drag my leg the rest of the walk. It doesn't even matter. But I always knew, and this is why you marry above you. Always marry above you. Because as I was prostrate on the ground, all my pride shattered. I rolled over on my back, knowing that my wife, Marty Priest Townsend, was right there. I knew she'd be right there, consoling me. And she wasn't. Instead, she was doing one of these. Okay, so I'm right here. And she ran up. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, this is affecting her more than me. And she's like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? What? Twist my ankle? Or run for 3 houses? I ran about a house and a half. And these are like half-acre lots, for crying out loud. Not only did I fall, but I was winded. I was winded from my fall, and I had worked up a sweat just from falling. Now you laugh because you're kind of rude. But, no, let's all be real. But the problem was, if that just happened once in my life, that would be bad. But it doesn't happen. It happened with me playing tennis about a month ago. Next thing I know, I'm going to get my wife's passing shot. Marty Priest Townsend with her passing shot. And I go to get it, and I thought I stopped. And then my Nana's ankles twisted in the wind, and down I went. And guess what my caring wife said? She does it over and over and over again. I've got bad ankles. And then I just went on a walk at BYU after my show. I always like to go on a walk because honestly, I don't like people, okay? I just want to get away from people. Leave me alone. I need some space. My ankles hurt. And I was walking, and I waved to a lady. It was neat. Somebody, I don't know if she recognized me or if she was like telling me to watch out for the pothole that I was about to step in. But she was like this, and I'm like, hey. And then I stepped right in the pothole, and you won't believe it. Twisted my Nana ankle. Went down flat in the road. Try being me. Do you know how worried I was to come out here? Like, I don't even bend this leg because I don't even want to risk it. And then to boot, I got Amy in a boot. Braggart, showing like she's got an ankle boot. So I'm a little anxious. Honestly, I didn't know I was anxious. I actually never felt anxious. So here's what I did. I wanted to research what anxiety looks like. How many of you, don't raise your hand, not even you, Governor. Don't anybody raise your hand. But rhetorically, how many of you have felt anxiousness for a long enough period of time that that it stopped you from doing something? It stopped you from being the best person you could be. It impacted you. And I started realizing, okay, now I've probably done that. In fact, I had a guy on my radio show talking about procrastination. By the way, his name, just ironically, based on today's talk, his name was Ferrari. His name is Dr. Ferrari from DePaul University. And he's talking about the fact that one of the biggest reasons we procrastinate really has very little to do with time management. A lot of times it's just anxiety. Or as Kim Giles was talking about, it's fear. And so I said, that's funny because I have 7 books I've been trying to write, kind of. And he's like, then he got right to it. So why aren't you writing them? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe my ankle's not sure. And he said, I bet there's some fear involved. Are you afraid of it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm probably afraid of failing. And then he said, I bet you're afraid of succeeding. I don't know. But the Ferrari has spoken. And it changed me. And it also changed me watching my kids go through this. So I started researching, what does anxiety look like? Let me show you what I found on Googly. When you Google this, it's a really cool, some images come up. In fact, fascinating images come up. What does anxiety look like? That. So if you ever have your partner look like that, especially in the morning, they've got anxiety. Or that. I don't even know what's coming out of that guy's head, but it ain't pretty. That, somebody's hungry. That, don't ask. These are the pictures that come up when you see Google. When you ask Google about anxiety. Look at this. A little nail biter. Any of you bite your nails? Anybody bite your children's nails? How about that one? Little stress, headache. Anybody have that one? How about that one? A girl being squished in an elevator. That would scare anybody. How about that one? Poof. Up in smoke. Do you ever feel like your life is like that? Also, in the exact same search, this came up. I kid you not. It's a sign from heaven. It's a sign from heaven that apparently I have stress and I didn't know it, or anxiety and I didn't know it. Did you know that 25% of our children will suffer from anxiety from 13 to 18 years of age? 40% of women over their lifetime will have anxiety. 36% of the people that suffer from anxiety are only 36 are getting help. They're just quietly suffering. And so I had a kid, one of my beautiful children. We have 6 kids, 1 girl, 5 boys. We put 2 of them into kindergarten. It all went well. Life was good. We thought it was really simple. One of my kids went to kindergarten. We dropped him off, and he didn't want to go. He's not going. And we had never had a child say, no, we're not going. So, of course, we're like, well, no, you're totally going. And we took him in, and we left him, and then it turned into chaos. And it got so bad that he wouldn't go every day. He wouldn't go. He'd actually be fine. He's super happy. Then we got him in the van, and this was the greatest invention ever because they had those vans you could just push a button. And the van, remember before when you had to actually use your hands to move a van door? Push the button, and the principal of the school, Dr. Visciarelli, would grab my beautiful boy and pull him out of the van. And then my wife would be like, see ya, and drive away. And it was a really beautiful kind of family moment. And we did this day after day after day. And then Dr. Visciarelli would give the boy some candy, take him into his office, love him, feed him, take care of him, and then take him into kindergarten. Eventually, over time, he weaned him off of the candy, and then eventually just got him to go to class. This boy, though, had anxiety, and they diagnosed him as having social anxiety, right? Or also generalized anxiety, which the abbreviation is GAD. Oh, GAD. And generalized anxiety and social anxiety, okay? So we realized he didn't like certain things. He didn't like school because the teachers don't know anything. We're going to show you how to kind of cut through this. This kid, by the way, eventually became a student body officer, but not by running, but because he knows how to play music. And so he made YouTube videos. And he found a way to get out this anxiety and this talent out of him by just playing music and making awesome videos that work. And then that actually got him a chance to be a student body officer as the tech officer. And then this kid, by the way, he also he performed at his graduation in front of 5,000 people with another singer and a whole choir, and he performed a solo and did all of these incredible things. But he had anxiety. this kid has anxiety. And in my head, I'm like, I don't like that word. My kid he's just different. He's special. He's amazing. He's incredible. By the way, when my son was practicing his musical number for his graduation ceremony, guess who showed up? Tapped him on the back and says, "Are you Tanner Townsend?" And Tanner said, "Yes." And it was Dr. Visciarelli, the principal of his elementary school, who used to rip him out of the van. And he said, "I told you I'd show up." And my son's like, "Now, who are you?" No, he knew exactly who he was. He's a hero of ours. And I believe a lot of us in this room might have a little anxiety, and it keeps us from doing what we do best, and we can't allow that to happen. So let me talk about a few things, like, what should we call anxiety? Let me give you some language if you think your kids might have a little anxiety, okay? You might use some of these words, and some of them you might just think are great. First word we could call it is stress, right? We could throw that in there. We're waiting for the clicker to click. Speaking of stress, you can call it anxiety. What else could you call it? Stress. Anything else? Anywho, I call it a bunch of stuff, okay? I call it freaking out. I call it fear. I call it concern. I call it apprehension, unease. If your kid's got a really big vocabulary, perturbation. I suggest you don't use that one. That'll freak out the neighbors. Then there's agitation. You could say, "Son, you seem a little agitated," like our laundry. Or you can talk about how sensitive they are, which was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. I may not even have anxiety, but I have really high sensitivity. You ever heard of high sensitivity? It's a pretty cool thing. We'll talk about it in a minute. Did you know that 20% of the animal population, so you pick an animal like a giraffe, 20% of the giraffes pick up more information, like 4 times more data than the rest of the giraffes. 20% of giraffes notice 4 times more than the other giraffes. Do you know how hard it is to be a giraffe when no one else is noticing what's going on? That's called high sensitivity. And they're finding out that some people maybe aren't so anxious. They're just super sensitive to a lot of information. And ironically, it's about 20%, which is about the same amount of people that have anxiety. Isn't that weird? So is that weird that if I walk into a house and I have 4 times more or 4 times more information in my head, what do you think I'm going to feel? I'm going to feel anxious. I'm going to feel perturbed. I'm going to feel stressed and frustrated. Let's get back to some other words so I can show you the best words that I really like to use the most with my family and my kids. You can also use the word nervousness. You can use the word tense or tension. Here's another one that I love, freaked out, if you're okay with that. Then you can use the word wigged out. But my favorite of all favorites is just to say, "Hey, son, do you have dem dare jitters?" Try that one on them because the kids love that. So I don't like to call it anxiety. So with my family, we call it worry. So when I see my son having a little anxiety moment, I actually say, "Son, it looks like you're worried. Looks like your worry's kicking in." I'd rather talk about worry than the word that some clinical diagnosis came from. Worry is what my son has. With me, I actually don't worry as much. I have a lot of this high sensitivity thing. Highly sensitive people, 20% of you in this room are high sensitive, and let me run you through some examples of that. When I was a little kid, I knew something was weird with me because I would look at Santa Claus. I will never forget this. Everybody loves Santa Claus. I sat on Santa's lap. I didn't sit on his lap because I walked up to him, and it was the mangiest Santa I've ever seen. And I was 4, but his beard didn't sit right. Right? It just didn't sit right. Like I could see down his beard. And his pants were worn out. And his little cotton gloves had little balls on them. And I could smell his Santa breath. See the census? And I'm like, my mom's like, sit on his lap, sit on his lap. And I'm looking at her like, are you crazy? Have you checked out his facial hair? This guy's not right. He's faking. And my mom's like, get up there, just get up there. I remember I was a little kid. My parents divorced, and my mom's like, I want you to go over and stay with our cousins, and they're going to take you hunting. Well, like, we're going to shoot an animal? And then all night long, I'm like, well, what about the animal's mother? And what about the animal babies? Did you know that humans are the only chronically stressed animals on Earth? We're so messed up. We are the only ones that are chronically stressed, except for those animals that live with us, sorry. Those animals are also stressed out. Everyone's stressed out, except the deer. The deer up in the pasture during hunting season. Do you think it's stressed? It's fine. It's fine. Until, bam, that sound. Then what does it do? What the? And it runs off. And it's out of there. But when it gets to the higher pasture, do you think it's like saying, was that the same guy that shot my dad? Was he wearing orange? Where are they? No, they just, when they get up to the pasture, what do? Hey, grass. They're back at it. But we would just go home and like, oh my gosh, like what did I do to him? See how our mind works? But we feel like we're the superior animal on this earth. Yeah, then you strap a deer with an orange vest, give him a shotgun, let's see how you do. You just start running, let's see how this goes. You'd be a basket case, and you'd have to think yourself through it, right? So it's all what I call the reframe. The reframe is very simple, and the way my mind works, I'm a very, 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 very simple person. I like Diet Coca-Cola beverages. If I take a Diet Coke can and I shake it, I'm going to create a lot of pressure and stress, right? If I put that can by your face and open it, what's going to happen? You'll feel the pressure. Now watch what's so weird. If I take that exact same can and I put that exact same amount of fluid in a 55-gallon drum, seal it, and shake it, you have to shake it like this. And when you shake it, and I put that drum right by your head and open up the top, what's going to happen? Pretty much nothing. What changed the pressure? We call it in my world a reframe. Pressure decreases when you increase the container's capacity. Why you are here today as parents is to increase your capacity to be a good parent. And as soon as you can increase your capacity to be a good parent, you will be amazed at how the pressure will tend to go down for you. Same thing with your child. If your child has anxiety, we have to help them reframe the anxiety into something different. So I've decided to call it something you can be proud of. If your child has anxiety, or if you have anxiety, very simply put, you, my friends, are a Ferrari. Okay? You're a Ferrari, and you're in a world full of Chevys. Nothing wrong with a Chevy, by the way. Aren't they both just cars? They're both just cars, right? Yeah, but you'd never take the Ferrari camping. Can you imagine what happens when you take the Ferrari up on a four-wheel drive, up the mountain, camping, and then you go fishing? Can you see how that would stress the Ferrari? That's what we do to our children. If we have a child or a human or an adult or any of our friends that are anxious, they're not just being a jerk. They're not just being rude. They are a finely tuned machine. They are not better. Ferraris are not better. Just take them camping. You'll see they come apart. You want a really fun night with the kids? Go look up on YouTube Ferrari crashes. There's tons of them. And every one of them is usually a left turn with somebody that the minute the light turns green, they gun it. And the minute they gun it and they're turning, the car spins out because it's got too much power. And bam, they're in a tree. And then there's a bunch of people looking at them like, can you believe that? Crashed a Ferrari. Meanwhile, the family in the Chevy Suburban are driving by. To me, I learned growing up that it's not that I'm a special Ferrari. I'm just a Ferrari, and I got a ton of potential in me. And if I can see more and pick up more, then I've got a great advantage, unless I don't understand how to drive my Ferrari. So we're going to show you how to drive your kids and their Ferrari, their anxiety, to a healthier and better place, okay? It's a fairly simple little model. I'm going to go through some questions. This is how you're going to see if you have a high-performing child, or what I would just call a Ferrari. All children are high-performing, but this is one that maybe has a little anxiety. Ferraris, for example, tend to chase perfection. If you have a perfectionist, you very well could have a child with anxiety. What could cause more anxiety than needing to be perfect? It's kind of a weird little irony. Are they more sensitive to things? Are they more responsive to stuff? When I was growing up, I would walk to school. I never understood why this was happening. And as I would walk, and I'd smell like doggy doo-doo. I'd dry heave all the way to school. Like, I'm the only kid that's dry heaving, and I noticed it because I'm a high sensitive. Why am I the only one dry heaving? None of you have to dry heave? No, we're fine. You don't smell that? Nope. I played Little League football. I love the sport. I love it. All my sons have played it, and it is the grossest thing ever. You go get in a huddle, and if you're a high sensitive, all you can do is like, whoa! I got tackled. I'll never forget this. I got tackled, and a guy's sweaty arm left sweat all over me. I walked around like this the rest of the game. The rest of the game. They're like, are you okay, Matt? Yeah, I'm fine. Why are you putting your arm out like that? Some sweat got on it. Is that nuts? I wasn't obsessive. That's gross. Do you not see that's gross? And this guy's never washed his pants. I'm the only kid in the huddle that's like, do you ever wash your pants? You ought to wash those. That's just wrong. Where's your mother? What kind of woman is she? It's so sad. Okay, some more. Do they get easily revved up? Do they tend to spin out in adverse conditions? You ever taken your kids somewhere and the next thing you know they're like having a fit? Every Sunday, our kids are asking, those especially that have a little bit of anxiety or worry, they're like, are we going anywhere? Yeah. Where? We're going to your grandpa's house where there will be lots of cousins that you do not like. Do we have to go? Yes, because we are together forever. Do they spin out on adverse conditions? Do they prefer staying on the track or going off-road? You notice some people just love the track because that's kind of where a Ferrari likes to be. The track really works for them. There's not a lot of dust. Ferraris really, they don't like the surprises. Do they feel like they feel every little bump in the road? I have a client that can't even pull his car in my driveway at work because the Ferrari it'll center out. It'll bottom out. It's the funniest thing to watch. I just go stand by the door. Come on. I'll just pull it sideways. And he has to work it sideways to get his Ferrari in. Wouldn't you love to have a Chevy right then? Just boom, boom, boom. Don't you know those people? Have you ever worried about every little thing? Like the temperature. Some of you right now are even worrying about the fireworks. You know what? Relax. It's just an angel getting clipped. That's all it is. Serious. No, I read the book. It also requires maintenance and pit stops. A lot of high sensitives require more pit stops. Now, we got to get to the road to peace, okay? I'm going to just teach you 5 quick things to get through the road to peace. This is how you get your child or yourself or your neighbor or your parole officer, what have you. You get them on a road to peace. Simply this: put your child in the driver's seat. Remember, this is their race, not yours. If you do not enable them to get strong at their own worry and manage their own worry, you are setting them up to fail as an adult. You can't take away this opportunity. 3 P's that I'd be teaching them. Purpose. I'd make sure your children are really clear about what they're passionate about. What is their unique contribution to this world? I would read every book you can about it, because if you can get your child connected into what they're passionate about, you will see the fear and the anxiety dissipate. Purpose will eliminate the fear. Okay, another thing I'd work on is positivity. Start helping them see good things every day. 2 days ago, I spoke to the law school, BYU Law School. Did you know that suicide rates is the number one profession for suicide, or committing suicide in that profession, are lawyers and attorneys? And they're finding out that a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're trained to be so darn critical. They have to critically evaluate everything they read. So they learn in training to be critical, and being critical increases the likelihood of anxiety and depression and other issues. Got to watch out for it. So some great research talks about the fact that if you would just identify 3 positive things a day, and you can help each of your kids have a journal and have every one of them every night write down 3 things that were good, a blessing, or a gift from heaven that you're grateful for today. And if you'll start to do that, you'll see that they actually start positively interpreting their life. And finally, we need to learn to be present. Are they living in the now? The present is the only place where people can act, as Dan Clark said. The only place a human being can act is in the now. The problem is, a lot of us that have anxiety aren't living in the now. We're worried about what happened yesterday, and that creates a lot of guilt. Or we're worried about what will happen tomorrow, and that creates a lot of fear. Where are you living? Lao Tzu, listen to this quote. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. Now, by the way, there's chemical reasons you have depression, right? That could also be going on. There's situational reasons. But even in our situations, when we tend to be depressed over time, it's because we have a lot of tendency to go backwards. If you are anxious, you're living in the future. And if you are at peace, you are living in the present. The only place that peace exists is in the now, which is why the number one tool to eliminate anxiety, ironically, is free. It's called breathing. Because when you breathe and intentionally breathe, you become present. One reason is because you start noticing your breathing. If I sat on your chest, you would start to feel anxious. Oh, I'm just sitting here. Don't worry about it. That's what happens when we are stressed out. So we have to put the kids in the seat and yourself in your own driver's seat. Start to elevate their emotional abilities. Help them understand how to control their emotional power. Every one of your kids are emotional giants. They know when you're mad. They can see it a mile away. Have you ever noticed that when you're mad, they might get mad? They catch on to your anger, your feelings, and your frustration. So we need to start to model emotional strength. Listen to this quote. This is such a good quote. The world is changed by your example, not your opinion. We live in a world where everyone thinks their opinion matters. And I'm telling you, it doesn't. I have a radio show 3 hours a day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I say. What matters is what I model, what I live. So your opinion about your child's anxiety will not matter if you don't model these behaviors. Show them how to do it. Show them how to recognize their emotion when you see it. When you see they're mad, point it out. Son, you seem mad. And make being mad an okay thing to feel. Make being sad and glad. Did you know at BYU they did a study where little kids at 8 months can identify 4 basic emotions and mirror them. Mad, glad, sad, and scared at 8 months. Have you ever watched that when you're holding a baby, if you were crying, they see you crying, they start to cry? Why do they cry? It's just so weird. No, because they are watching you. Also, we need to talk to our kids about their emotions. When I say, Tanner, you seem sad, what's going on? And then make a safe place for them to talk. All you need to do is state the emotion. You seem sad. You seem happy. What's up? And start letting them share their feelings about their emotion. And last but not least, one of my favorites is turn the arrows out. You'll notice a lot of times when you have anxiety or fear, all your arrows are turned in. You're anxious because you're thinking about yourself. A lot of the best solutions to get rid of your anxiety would be to turn the arrows out. Start serving, start caring, start laughing more. Serve it out, laugh it out, hug it out, walk it out. But watch your ankles if you're walking. Just a little helpful hint. Play it out. One of my things that saved my child's life is he was stressed out. He wasn't sure if he could ever dare go on a 2-year LDS mission trip, is what we call him. Didn't know if he could do it. Didn't think he could make it. And he ended up taking his music, and the LDS church asked him to write a song, and he wrote a song for EFY in 2015, and the song just happened to be called I Can Do All Things. And he wrote it, and it started to make him feel this spirit, like I can do all things. And now he happens to be about 4 months out from coming home from his LDS mission, recreational opportunity, and he's been singing that song nonstop, constantly. to a lot of people and with a lot of people and changing a lot of lives. So we also could dance it out. I just would recommend watch your ankles. The A in peace is that we got to act on the real problem, and this is a really important thing. It's actually where the rubber meets the road. A lot of times when we're trying to help our kids, we talk to them about all of these great things, except what we don't ever talk about is the actual problem. My son didn't want to go to his guitar lesson. We had signed up for a guitar writing class to write songs and all of these great things, and then I went to pick him up to take it, and he didn't want to go. I don't want to go. It's stupid. I don't even know these people. I don't even know if this guy can write music. Why do I want to go with somebody I don't even know, and I don't even know I can write it? Now, you know what you say? You're going. Red rum, red rum. That's from The Shining. Anyway, sorry, wrong audience. Okay. So I want to react to this kid. You're going. We paid money for this, and you said you wanted to go. I don't want to go. I don't even know the guy. You know the guy. The guy's a great guy. Look him up. Google him. Google him. And should we start fighting about if he's a good guy? Do you want to bet the guy is not the issue here? Do you want to bet what the real issue is? That's the smoke. The smoke is everything you fight about with the kid. My son didn't want to go to school in high school because why would I want to take a class from a guy that doesn't even know how to do photography as much as I do? He's never even produced anything that's made money. I want to go to somebody that knows how to make money. So should we fight with him about that? Do you want to bet the real issue isn't what he brings up? I call that the smoke. So smoke is the smoke screen or complaints or stories or excuses, all the overreactions or the underactions, all the things that aren't the real issue. Don't go there. There's one thing you go to with somebody that has anxiety. And the minute you see it, you go to the fire, and the fire is the real issue causing the stress and confusion, and that real issue is one thing. It's called worry. So the minute I see worry in my kids, I don't chase the worry. I go to one thing. I say, son, and I ask him what I call the accurate action question. What's the one thing you can do right now to better manage your worry? You have worry about going to this guitar lesson. What's the one thing you can do right now to manage your worry? Well, not go to guitar. No, that would be avoiding the worry. How are you going to manage your worry today? And we come up with a solution. And guess what happens when your child learns to come up with a solution for their worry? They stop making excuses, and they start making progress. Don't chase everything else. Chase the worry and get them skilled and attuned to handling the worry. There's a great website if you go playing. It's called Playing with Anxiety. You go there, you can get a free book to sit down with your kids and start learning to teach them how to handle that one thing. It's a great free service. They're incredible. I had them on my show. Beautiful work. The C in peace is we got to learn to crack the calmness code. I am a high sensitive, but I don't tend to have worry breakdowns where I can't perform. But I know that I have a code. And what I've realized is that for years, I was uninformed about why I was worried. And I thought how cool it would be if I could be informed about my worry. Would you rather be uninformed and worried or informed and worried? Once I'm informed, and I'd really rather not be worried, Matt. That's why I really like the idea of being a worm dropped in a whiskey shot. Because we think that will take the worry away. But you're still dying, and you're not anxiously engaged. So what I've realized in my life are there certain things that work for me, and you need to go start looking for what works for your child and create a code. I know every day that I need to manage my stimulation because of my sensitivity. So I have an office that's 3 minutes from my house. And when my house gets too loud and crazy, I go to my office. Even on a weekend. I'll go on a walk. I'll just step out and I'll go breathe. And I just need a little space. Every time I see my clients, I'll work with them. After my last client, I will sit and just meditate, basically, in my office with the lights out. Did you know that 60% of your data comes through your eyeballs? So if you would just shut them once in a while, you could actually bring down a lot of stimulation. So I manage my high sensitivity that way. Arrows out. I know that if I'm turning my arrows out, do you know what I think to myself every time I do a speech? Because every time I do a speech, behind 4 great speakers like you saw, I start noticing I'm a loser, even though one of the speakers was talking about not doing that. I still did it. But what I realized is I have this little mantra I say to myself, nobody came here to see you, Matt. Get over yourself. Just deliver the principles. Just deliver the principles. And the minute I start thinking it's not about me, it's about us changing lives of our children, things change. It's so beautiful. It's so powerful. I also know my purpose. I know my passion. And when I'm doing what I love and what I know I'm called to do on this earth, then guess what happens? My anxiety tends to dissipate. I also know that if I'm spiritually attuned, because I know for me, that helps me heal. I know that laughter and true recreation, you ever gone on a vacation that didn't recreate you? That it turned you into a spawn of darkness? Yeah, we need true recreation. They're different. I know I need to exercise, and I know you know I do. And I know I need water, because if I don't get a lot of water and instead I get too much carbonated brown soda juice, it tends to harden my body, and not in the good way, okay? And then last but not least, sleep 7 hours. I know if I don't get 7 hours of sleep, it messes me up. That's my code. And when I live that code, it works for me. I have found 100 other solutions that work for people. Did you know that if you just take a cold shower, you actually will have less anxiety and depression? Now, how many of you just thinking of that made you feel anxious? No, but apparently it kicks in this fight or flight part of your life and your body and your mind and your brain, and it makes you feel like, I'm alive. And it brings you into the now. It's pretty crazy. It's also something I've never done. And nor will I ever do it, because that is messed up. So we've got to figure out what brings the calmness to your child. Last but not least is this. We need to learn to start to evaluate our progress, not through our ego, but through our essence. Okay? And this is what we'll end on. Every one of us, I personally believe, has an ego and an essence. The essence, I think, is the goodness of who you are. In the middle of the night when you are rocking your cute little baby and you feel nothing but peace and love for that child, you are in your essence. Okay? Now contrast that with your child bringing home a bad report card because they didn't turn in their assignment on time, and now you're mad and heads are going to roll. And you're ticked off, and then somebody knocks on the door asking for a Friends of Scouting donation, and you're not even a friend anymore. Okay, now we are not even in our essence anymore. We are now in our ego. So if you're going to evaluate your anxiety, don't do it in the lowest part of yourself. Evaluate your anxiety in the highest part of yourself. Check yourself out through your highest being. Your highest potential. What is your purpose? What's your purpose as a parent? Okay, and you can do it a million different ways. Just being in nature can take you to your highest essence. Seeing a sad story that actually draws you in to feel an emotion, that is your essence. If the emotion turns into fear and what about, then now you're moving into your ego to protect. So where I learned this is in a really interesting thing. I was going to be a journalist, and then I blew that all up. And I used to work for Channel 2 way back in the day as a college student, actually. And I worked my way up, and I was on the overnight shift. In fact, all the lactating mothers loved me. And because I would just be doing the news, and they were all up feeding their babies. And it was crazy. Like, I'd go, like, to the lactation station, and they'd be like, hey, is that Matt Townsend? Can I get an autograph? Sure. Not a big deal. But what I found out that was so powerful is that I was terrified. I'm a young father, and we had this brand new baby, and I'll show you this cute little picture. And I learned this question that, will it matter in 100 years? Because I was terrified to be a new dad. I was terrified to be a second dad, a third dad, fourth dad, fifth dad, and a sixth dad. It terrified me because I didn't know I could do it. So here I am. At age, this is when I was 15, I had my first child. No, this is when I was 24 probably. Had our cute little baby Sarah. Isn't she darling? And I remember rocking her at night in the rocking chair, and I would feel peace. But when I would think about having to provide for her and feed her and do all these things, it would stress me. But at night, if I could just rock her in the chair, I would feel peace. Well, that little girl, Sarah, grew up to be this woman holding her baby. Her baby's Claire. And that's her husband, Brady. And my little question of will it matter if I learned to manage my emotion, my anxiety, my fear at 24, now I'm 48, still have Nana's ankles, but I also have a daughter that knows better how to manage her emotion and her anxiety. And I have a grandbaby that will learn to manage hers. And the research shows if my daughter can learn how to manage it better than I did, then she would actually hand down even better abilities to her daughter. So I was hoping, now that I know this, that we could have handed it down. And then another cute picture of Sarah. This is one that reminds me of her grandma. Always sticking her tongue out. And this is Claire. And this is Claire. Will it matter in 100 years if you can help your family learn to drive the Ferrari? Yeah, it already matters. It already matters. Everyone in this room, it already matters that you learn to be the best person you can be. Because when you're not the best person you can be, how am I supposed to be the best person I can be? Without a Dr. Visciarelli, how could my son have been where he was? Okay, we all have something that holds us back, and in the end, it doesn't have to anymore. My favorite quote, I've used it here before, is that it's by Victor Hugo, who wrote the book called The Miserables, or Les Miserables. And he said, we must be like the bird, who halting in its flight on a limb that's too slight, and feels the limb give way beneath him, yet sings, knowing that it hath wings. We must have the confidence of the bird that's about to land on a limb that can't hold it. And when that limb breaks beneath the bird, you know what the bird does? The bird sings, because the bird has wings. We must empower our children with the wings to fly with the hand that they've been dealt. Everybody, we've got to do it. And I know we are, and that really is why this event is such a big deal. You are the change. You are the change. And I want you to do anything you can do tonight. Will you think of one thing you've learned from any of the speakers? Just one thing. And will you commit to yourself and your spouse on the way out, anybody you're with, anybody you brought, commit to them what you're going to do. And I promise, if you do that one thing, you will see clearly what to do next. And then you do that thing, and you'll see even more clearly what to do next. Thank you again for being here. God bless, and go take care of your families. Thank you. Thank you.